Hey, how's it going, everyone? My name is Ryan with Iowa Classic Cars, and welcome back to the channel. Today is part 2. We are working on the 1949 Chevy Fleetline Deluxe. This is a 2-door sedan. It's got the nice fastback style roof. And in the last video, we got her to run, but it was not hitting on all cylinders. So I've taken the liberty today of saving everyone a bunch of boredom. And I'm actually learning a ton of stuff on these. These are pretty cool engines. But this Stovebolt 216 had a total of 4 bent push rods. 1 right there, 2 right there, 1 right there. Of the 4 that were bent, 3 of these valves were stuck. I'm sorry, not valves, lifters. So I've sprayed them with some WD-40 and worked them back and forth. As you can see now, they kind of move on their own. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but they do go up and down on their own. Now, if you pull it all the way up, it doesn't want to go down, but they do kind of move on their own now, which is nice. So, with that being said, I don't know if you guys can see that one or not. This one back here was by far the worst. Had a ton of like this gummy stuff. I don't even know if it's just varnish or what it is, but yeah, this one's got the same too. So I need to clean inside here in this valley. I need a new gasket. This side cover is actually super easy to take off. It's right here. You just take the spark plugs out. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 11 bolts and screws. The bolts are 7/16, which they look like this. They have a little screw hole in them as well. But those kind of go in the tight corners where it's kind of hard to get to. And then the top ones are screws. I also took off the rocker assembly. Up here looks nice. Still a little bit of green paint. I'm not really sure why they were painted green back in the day. If anybody can tell me why, that would be great. But yeah, with that being said, it looks pretty good up here. A little bit of crud, but I'm going to clean it all up. Get a new gasket, and we are going to try to start this thing again. I'll show you guys the valves, or I'm sorry, the push rods that I took out because they were pretty bent. All right, so I know this is probably not the proper way to do this, but for a temporary thing before I buy brand new ones, I've got them here in the vise. This one, I just can't get all 4 of them. These were all really bent, like almost at a 45 to 90 degree angle before I put them in the vise. So this one still needs some work, still bent, but a lot better than before. So that's the new plan, is gonna leave the push rods in the vise for a day or so, maybe let them kind of hold their shape. We're gonna put the rocker shaft assembly back on, leave the valve cover off of it just to make sure everything's moving. Maybe leave off the side cover, you know, just to start it up for a couple seconds and see if everything is moving without interference. And if it is, I probably would just order some new push rods. I mean, these ones are pretty gummed up. They're pretty gummed up with old oil. The engine does need an oil change for sure, but let's get it running nice first before we, you know, spend 60 bucks on oil. I also got a back window for this car. This one was shot out back in the day, and it was kind of held together with a lot of duct tape. So I do have a back window for it finally. We got that done in the first episode, and I will show you guys how to replace this. But first, I want to get that engine running good before we do the cosmetic stuff. So that's the goal of this video today. Now that I've saved you guys the boredom of opening this thing up, let's kind of dig into this thing a little more in depth. All right, so everybody watch that number 6 push rod right there. I mean, it's bent, but as soon as you put any kind of pressure on it, I mean, the push rod bends right away. Okay, well, there's no reason to try to fix these push rods because they're going to keep bending. So, I suppose let's replace them and go from there. Kind of sucks. I mean, I figured it would probably bend again, but yeah, that one's bending. This one seems okay right there. This one's already bending again, and so is this one. But at least the lifters are freed up now, so that's half of our problem. Just got to get some new push rods. All right, so I did find a set of push rods in a 1948 Chevy, and the internet told me that 1940 to 1949 are all the same with the 3-speed, and then 1950 to 1953 are the same with the Power Glide. I don't know why that would be any different, but nonetheless, 40 to 49 was the same. They all had a 3-speed, so they're all the same, good to go. I did reinstall them here, got it all bolted down. I had 4 total push rods that were bent. So I put them all back in here. I turned the engine over a few times, and the only one that is still sticking is number 6. The intake valve is totally stuck. So number 6 intake, which is right here, totally stuck. And then it looks like number 2 exhaust. It moves a little bit, which is this one right here. It moves a little bit, but the valve is sticky. So I'm gonna pull this rocker shaft assembly off of here. It's just 6 bolts. They're 5/8 bolts. Oh, I'm sorry, 9/16 bolts. I'm gonna take that off of here, get my ball peen hammer, and just tap on the valve, and hopefully get them freed up, and then we'll bolt it all back together. I will put a new, I'll put another new push rod right there. I've got a set of 12 of them, so if I bent a few, not a big deal. Yeah, we'll get that changed out, get everything put back together. My buddy Dave is coming tomorrow, so I did not realize that this side cover has a gasket, and it's torn. It's missing some spots, it's torn, and the spark plug gaskets are missing. So we're gonna fire this thing up by just dumping gas in it. Not gonna let it run for a long time. Obviously it's pushing oil, and I don't wanna spray everything down with oil, but I wanna see if it's hitting on all the cylinders. So once we know that, then I'll order the gasket, then I'll order the valve cover gasket, and so on and so forth. So with that being said, let's tap on these valves and see if we can get them freed up. All right, I'm gonna try to do this again. I don't know if the lighting's any good here or not, but we're gonna try it. Yeah, I really can't get the flashlight any better than that, so well, let's keep trying. All right, let's give that a shot. Everything is moving. This one's moving really good. The number 6 intake is moving really nice now. That was actually one that was not moving at all. The number 2 valve, it's still a little slow to come up, but it is moving, and I hit it a few times with a hammer, and it did spring back pretty good. So I think that one will be okay. I've turned the engine by hand now probably 6 or 8 times, and the push rods all seem to be okay. There's no bending, but let's turn it over and see what happens. I'm gonna turn this thing over probably 3 or 4 seconds, and if we do have a bending push rod, it should catch it, or it should bend in that little amount of time here. So here we go. All right, and let's look. 6 is good, 5 is good, 4 is good, 3, 2, and 1. None are bending. They're all seated nice. So, when my buddy Dave gets here tomorrow, I kind of want to fire this thing up now, but what we'll do is on Saturday, we'll put some spark plugs in this thing, dump a little bit of gas, let it run for like 3 seconds. I mean, it can't spray that much oil in 3 or 4 seconds. And if it runs good, or it runs better than before, then then we know it's fixed, and we'll move on to installing the back glass while I ordered new side cover gaskets and valve cover gasket. So yeah, that's promising. We're making headway anyways. Okay, so we've got the fuel tank and the fuel pump all kind of primed. I'm just touching the contacts to the battery for about 15 seconds. Gonna let the carburetor fill up. The side cover is off of the engine. I want to watch the push rods. My buddy Dave is here. He's gonna crank the vehicle over, or I'll crank the vehicle over. And the other one, whoever does which, will watch the push rods. Because the side cover is off, there is a chance that oil can start to spray. If that happens, whoever is in the car cranking it over and starting it will be shutting it down. So with that being said, let's put some gas to this thing and fire it up. That's really weird. Unless the battery's getting weak.
Could be. Yeah, I mean, it's rough, but all 6 might be there.
No oil's dripping though. I don't want to burn this thing up, but are all the push rods moving that you can tell?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna do this for like 10 seconds, like 5 seconds. At the lower RPMs, it's like it's missing.
Yeah, it definitely clears up with more.
Yeah, as it comes up, it definitely clears itself out. Any burnt or bent push rods?
No, they all look pretty
good.
They were all moving.
Oh, it's smoking like that so bad. I've never seen that before. That probably should be hooked up. I'm not sure what that is, but look at all the gas coming out of it, or the old gas. That old varnish. All right, so now that it runs on all 6, I'm gonna order a new cover. Yeah, it's spraying oil, see? So at least it is moving oil.
Yeah, it's bringing it to the top.
Mouse nest as well in the, see back there? In the tranny. All right, so now we're gonna replace that back window. All right, so this trim on this 49 has like this weird C groove in it. And once the new rubber gasket, this is an original window with a new rubber gasket from Auto City Classics. But once the gasket is installed, you need to get this J channel or the C channel into the gasket, cut the opening right here on front or on the front of this thing. Silicone spray, my boy Dave, who is a painter by trade, he said, if you ever use silicone spray in a body shop, you're getting fired, but we're not in a body shop, so it's okay. So yeah, you pretty much just have to like kind of work it into the groove. It wasn't terrible. This corner, the first corner was kind of a bear, but after that, you just kind of roll it in place and it fits down there nice and tight. This is a nice gasket, original trim from the car. So with that being said, we're gonna flip this thing over. Let me show you here. There is a channel We're gonna put our rope in, and then we'll have the glass installed. The rope will be pulled from the inside of the vehicle, so one person will get inside of it. The other person will kind of push down on the glass as it goes, and it should seal up nice. So here we go. Okay, so let me get this tape out of the way. All right, Dave, I'm gonna pull. I'm gonna pull a little bit this way and a little bit this way to get it started.
Did it go?
It's going, yep. All right, I'm gonna pull this way now.
Yep.
All right, so I'm just gonna keep pulling that way. There you go. All right, so you guys can see as Dave's pushing on it, I'm just pulling that, and it's pulling it around and sucking the gasket inside the vehicle. Yeah, can you push down on it? Like, all right. Dave's gonna grab an adjustment stick here and try to work the glass down a little bit. But as you can see, the gasket is really nice, and sitting on that pinch weld really nice. So that's pretty much all it is. And right there, it's a little high, but using a plastic adjustment stick, pry the glass down a little bit. Oh, there you go. Just keep your hand right there. Oh, that's premium, Dave. All right. Looks awesome. Thanks for the help, Dave. I think we've earned ourselves some cervezas. Well, I don't drink, but he does.
Rusty Duck, Dexter, Iowa, check it out.
Yeah, we're going to eat a nice dinner here. The only thing I'm not a big fan of is this gasket stands up kind of tall. I'm sure it just has to settle a little bit, but you can kind of see right there it stands up maybe a 1/4 inch, which in the grand scheme of things is whatever. I mean, most guys with these old cars now aren't driving them in the rain and the snow, so probably doesn't really matter, but I'd probably hit that with some silicone or some sealant just to be safe, but not too bad. Really took, what, 5 minutes to install it. Just got to pull the rope and have someone else to push on it for you. So excuse my sweating here, but it is the hottest day of the year by far. It's like 107 feels like temperature. But I did a compression test because at idle it ran pretty rough, but then at a higher RPM it seemed to kind of smooth out a little bit. So when I did that, I discovered that, well, first of all, there's a mouse nest in this, in the starter, but that's a different point. Number 3 cylinder had no compression. These valves were way too tight, so I've backed them off a little bit, and we have 90 pounds there. Everything else looks pretty good. Number 1 cylinder is 120, 2 and 3 are 90 PSI, number 4 is 70, 5 is 90, 6 is 0. So I'm just going to, I don't even know if this is right, wrong, indifferent. I'm going to back these screws out all the way. There we go. Just take them out. I'm going to take the push rods out. I'm going to work on seeing if the lifters maybe are getting a little stuck. And then I'm going to put them back in. Yeah, I'm going to put them back in there, lubricate them good, maybe adjust them out a little bit, and see if possibly the compression is just because of the valves being too tight. So I'm going to work on that. And again, excuse my sweating here. It's just so ungodly hot. And I suppose for August it's par for the course, but when it's been 80 all month, and then now it's 97 with 75% humidity and a feels like temp of 107. Makes life a little rough. I'll bring these out through the bottom. All right, so I'm just going to pretty much spray some WD-40 in here. The lifters are nice and loose, but I'm gonna do it for both of them anyways. And then readjust these valves. I mean, they stick at the very top, but that's also at the very top where they won't ever get to. Moving nice and free, float up and down nice. Number 6 exhaust is a little sticky. There's a lot of crud. A lot of crud around that lifter. All right, so right there, the lifter's tight. Oh, I'm sorry, the valve is tight. So again, right there, tight, no play. A little bit of play. Just a skosh. So I think that's good. Because the last time I might have had them just a smidge too tight. And I know there's a book on this, on setting these exactly, but all right. Now that is roughly where I want it. And this brings me to my next point. Is hold the bolt with a screwdriver. I'm just doing this by hand. Come on. All right, now we get the 5/8 wrench. Tighten them up. They both have some play. This was the cylinder that had sticky or had stuck valve or stuck lifters before, so if it doesn't have any compression, I suppose we'll see. It probably won't be a surprise to anyone if it doesn't, but at least number 3 cylinder came back to life. Didn't sound like it had compression before, and this time it does. What do we got? Look at that, 110. So let's put the cap and spark plugs back in this thing and see if it idles a little better than before. Now that we know that all cylinders have compression. All right, the carburetor is full of fuel. Let's see what happens here. Key on. Well, it's still, let me turn the key off. It's still a little rough at idle. But once it kind of warms itself up, it does smooth itself out quite a bit. And everything's moving. Definitely sounds like a typewriter. Pretty common on a 216. So I'm gonna set the camera up here, maybe on my 59, and try to get a little better shot of this. It revs pretty hard right before it runs out of gas. I don't know why it does that. I'm not really sure what the diagnosis is with that. But nonetheless, it did really smooth out. Push rods look good. That valve has a lot of play, but that was my problem cylinder, so at least it's got compression, so I might not mess with it. All right. I would say that is pretty good compared to what it was, 2 weeks ago. Let's try it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just enough to bring her alive. All right, I'm gonna call it good until my my parts show up, because this is pretty good. The oil, or the fuel pump is working. It's pushing old varnish gas. So I'm not going to run the tank, but the previous owner did say that he thought the tank was plugged up at the sending unit, which looks like that's not the case. And whatever was in the line plugging it has since blown out. So fuel pump works, which is great. I'm gonna maybe drop the tank, clean it out, go from there. New gaskets on the way. Gonna seal it all up, and we're done with this thing. All right, so if you guys enjoyed the video and enjoyed my suffering in the heat here, make sure to leave a thumbs up. Comment down below what you guys would do with this vehicle. Would you leave it all original, or would you fully restore this thing? Either way, I think it'd be super cool. You know, maybe even freshen up the engine while leaving the body original. But yeah, got a lot of good stuff done on this vehicle. Got it running. I think it's hitting on all 6 now. It does smooth out quite a bit. Carb was gone through. It's a 1-barrel YF, so pretty basic carburetor there. Back window is replaced. Car's been off the road probably 30, 40, 50 years. I mean, who really knows last time it was driven. The previous owner told me that the tags were turned in back in 1968 or 1970. But they did drive it around the farm, so who knows truly when the last time this thing was fired up. But yeah, it's back and it's alive and ready for the road. So if you guys are brand new, make sure to subscribe. I'm always finding cool stuff like this. And in the meantime, just check out everything else I got going on my channel. Make sure to stick around, and yeah, you won't be disappointed. So thank you all for watching. My name is Ryan with Iowa Classic Cars, and I will catch you guys next time.